Good morning.
You look great on the beach.
Yeah, we're starting today with Chaf. Chaf. It's supposed to be Chaf Tes, but it's actually Chaf Ches. I think we have to go up. We have to start with Rabbi Yehuda Amar Yishchet. I stopped earlier yesterday. It's on Chaf Ches Amud Bais, Rabbi Yehuda Amar Yishchet. It's a little bit up, or a little bit behind. Yeah, Rabbi Yehuda says that you have to shecht the veins or the arteries. We have two opinions here. Amar Rav Chizda. Chizda says, Lo Yamar Rabbi Yehuda Ela ba'oif. This halacha of shechting the veins is only applicable to a bird. Hayil b'tzelei kol ke'echad, because it's roasted as one. Aval behema, but by an animal. Kiven the menatcha ever leitzarech. Because when it comes time to cooking it or roasting it, you have to cut it into pieces. You're not going to fit a whole animal in a pot. So you make it into steaks or whatever. So it's going to be cut up anyway. So then there's no problem. And so,
why was the difference?
Lememra is this to say the time of the Rabbi Yehuda Mishum Damu, that the reason for Rabbi Yehuda is because of the blood. So what we're concerned about is that you're going to roast it, and the blood is contained, and it was never no part of the arteries or the veins were severed, so it's not going to drain out. You're going to roast it with the blood in it. So it's only applicable to a bird where you're not going to chop it up. And if that's the case, it was taught in the Mishnah, Rabbi Yehuda Imrat Shishchei, you have to shecht the vridin. Gemara says, Ema adshi yinaki b'savridin. Really, it should be, means to say until you, it doesn't mean shchita. It means until you puncture the because really the idea here is not the shchita of the veins. It's misleading when it says the shchita of the veins. It seems like it's a din in shchita. It's not a din in shchita. It's a din in malicha, in salting it and getting the blood out, or roasting. But whatever, it's a din in dam. So what it means is that you should puncture the veins. Why does it say until you shecht? That you have to puncture it at the time of the shechita. It doesn't mean actually shechita. It means at the shechita you have to puncture it. Okay. Tashma, come and listen. Vridin b'shechita divrei Rabbi Yehuda. The veins need to be shechted. That's the words of Rabbi Yehuda. That's a problem because it says shechted. The Gemara explains what it means is that at the time of the shechita they need to be punctured, not shechted. Tashma, come and listen. Amr Leila Rabbi Yehuda. They told to Rabbi Yehuda, the whole idea of severing the arteries is to let the blood out. So mali b'shchita, mali shlei b'shchita. Why does it have to be b'shchita? What's the difference if it's if it's shchita or if it's not shchita? So michlal. But from that discussion that they asked Rabbi Yehuda, why does it need to be b'shchita? That implies michlal the Rabbi Yehuda saver b'shchita. Rabbi Yehuda must hold that it needs to be shechted. This is our third attempt to prove that Rav Chizda is incorrect. Rav Chizda says that the whole din of cutting the arteries is only by a bird, and that has to do with the halachas of dam. It seems that it's a halacha of shchita, and then it's nothing to do with dam, with the blood. It has to do with the shchita. So hachi kamri, lay. The aleph adds in the word lay, or it changes the la to a lay. Hachi kamri lay. This is what he means to say, or this is what they mean to say. Mali lenakban b'shas shchita, mali lenakban shlei b'shas shchita. Why do I need to puncture it at the time of the shchita? Puncture it after the shchita. But Rabbi Yehuda himself holds b'shas shchita asidam. At the time of the shchita, if you puncture it, the blood will come out the chayim because it's warm. If you wait till after the shchita to puncture the veins, which that's the way we're learning, that it doesn't need to be the shchita on the veins, they just need to be punctured. Lo yasidam, the blood won't come out. Why? Dekar, because it's already cooled. The blood won't come out the same way the blood will like harden and thicken and congeal. Okay. Is there another word that I should use?
No, it's clotting.
It's clotting. Boy, Rabbi Yirmiyah has a question. Rashi points out that Rabbi Yirmiyah did not hear this discussion with Rav Chisda, so that's why he asked this question. Vridin l'Rabbi Yehuda, the veins according to Rabbi Yehuda. Shah bahen. Let's say while he's doing the shchita, he didn't cut them immediately. He paused. Now, by the shchita, if there's a pause in the middle of the shchita for a certain amount of time, whether it's to check the knife or to shecht another animal, whatever we'll see later, it's shecht another animal. But he makes that pause, and then he shechts the veins. Is it still valid? Because from Yehuda, it sounds like that you need to do shchita. He didn't hear this discussion that it's not a din in shchita. Doras bam, or let's say he cuts it in a chopping manner. Mahu, what's a din? Amaleyahu Saba. So this older person says, I didn't look this up. Does it mention there Hahu Saba who it is? I think it says in some place that Hahu Saba always means Eliyahu Navi or something. But so Hahu Saba tells him, Hachi Amar Rabbi Lazar. So says Rabbi Lazar. Va'amri la Amalei Hahu Saba Rabbi Lazar. Or this person says to Rabbi Lazar, this older person, this Hachi Amar Rabbi Yechanan, that so says Rabbi Yechanan. Menachem bekoitz v'hein ksherin. Exactly the way we learned that the veins and the arteries only need to be punctured. They don't need to be shechted. Even according to Rabbi Yehuda, they don't need to be shechted. Tanya Kavaseder Rav Chisda. It's taught in a Braisa, like Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda's opinion was, that's what we started with today, that this halacha of cutting the veins only applies to a bird. Because the bird could be roasted intact, and then the blood will not drain out. But you have a raya for that. That it doesn't apply to an animal, and it's only by a bird. If someone shechts 2 halves of the simanim by a bird, but he doesn't do the majority of either, that's pasul. And it goes without saying that that would be pasul by an animal as well. Rabbi Yehuda says, he adds to this, by a bird, you have to shech the veshet and the vridin and the arteries. The veshet is the food pipe, the esophagus, and the arteries. Now, the emphasis here is the word ba'oif. That he did not say in the Mishnah. So now we have a proof that Rav Chisda is correct, because Rav Chisda says that it only applies to a bird, and here we have a brisa that says that Rav Yehuda's statement is with a bird specifically. Okay. Now it feels more like we're up to date. We're now starting where there's like a new piece in the bottom of 28b. Is that what it is too? Okay. This is a quote from the Mishnah. The Mishnah says if he cuts half of one by a bird, or 1 1/2 by an animal, shchitase psula. Itmar. It's a statement from Amirayim. The Amirayim, they spoke in Aramaic, but their halachic statements are always in Hebrew. So that's the way they would learn. They would, just like the Mishnayos, it's in Hebrew, and even in Israel they were speaking Aramaic. But their studying was in the original Hebrew. Conversation was in Aramaic. It's just like us. We learn in Hebrew and speak English. That's how it was. It's smart.
Just like us.
Language-wise. I hear you. Rav Amar, so we have the statement. Rav Amar mechzal mechza k'roiv. There's going to be a little problem in the Mishnah. We'll see soon. But Rav says that half and half is the majority. Rav Kana Amar Mechza al Mechza Eina Karoiv. Rav Kana says that half and half is not like Rav. I wish I knew which Rav Kana. There's very interesting Rav Kanas, but one's a student and one's a friend, and one of the books that I use, the history book, says that there's 6 Rav Kanas. So I'm totally lost. It says Rav Kana, you don't know. It's like saying Mendel. Okay. Rav Amar. Now we go to the explanation. Rav Amar Mechza Mechza Karoiv. Rav says that half and half is like the majority. Hachi Amalei Rachman al Moshe. This is what Hashem told Moshe. Leitishaya Ruba. Don't leave over half. Don't leave over majority, which means half. You don't have the majority uncut.
Half is good.
Half is good. Once you've reached half, you don't have the majority uncut. So that means it's kosher. In other words, the laws of shchita is halacha l'Moshe Misinai. So we're questioning what was the statement that Hashem told Moshe. Did he say that you should cut the majority? Or did he say, don't leave over the majority? He says, don't leave over the majority. That means that half is already, he didn't leave over the majority. Rav Kana says, Mechza al Mechza Eina Karoiv. Half and half, 50% is not the majority. Hachi Amalei Rachman al Moshe Shcheit Ruba. Hashem told Moshe, should shech the majority. The yeshivas would learn this, that the Minchas Chinuch has this chakira about eating in the sukkah. Is the halacha that you have to eat in the sukkah, or is the halacha that you're not allowed to eat outside the sukkah? So therefore you eat in the sukkah. So like, what's the main point? And then they have a tzitzis, a garment. The 4 corners needs to have tzitzis. Is it that it needs to have tzitzis, or you can't have a garment without tzitzis? So therefore, 4 corners without tzitzis. So therefore, you have to put the tzitzis on. Where's the emphasis? When it comes to shchita, also, is the din of shchita that it has to be shechted, or is the din of shchita that it can't be pierced or shot or something like that? So if it's a din in the shchita, so yeah, I have to shecht it majority. So, but if it's a din that it's not allowed to be not shechted, it's not allowed to be like died with through something else, then we could say that look, it didn't die some other way. It's not that. We didn't have majority like that. We've covered that base, that it's not nechira. Nechira would be piercing. Okay, whatever the case is, it's clear that what did Hashem tell Moshe? Did he tell him that you need to shech the majority, or you can't leave over the majority? Okay, Siman, Chatzi, Ketina, Gargeres, and Pegima. These will just be a mixture of names and topics that will be discussed in this discussion. Tanana was taught in a Mishnah. It's our Mishnah. Chatzi echad v'chatzi b'mehem shchita sipsula. It says half by a bird, 1.5 by an animal. It's puzzle. If we say that half and half, 50% is the majority on my puzzle, why is it puzzle? He did the majority. That's a clear problem, right? The Gemara explains midirabanan that it's only puzzle. The Mishnah that says that half is no good. It's midirabanan. Midiraisa, it was valid with just 50%. Rashi points out that the nafkamina here would be: is it metame benevela? Is it considered a dead animal that gives off tumah? Midiraisa, it was shechted. Midirabanan, we're not allowed to eat it, but it's not metame. Dilma la yasi lemevad palga. Why did the Rabbanan make this decree that you have to do more than half, even though midiraisa half is enough? The reason is because maybe you won't get it exactly to half. Maybe you'll do a little bit less than half. So therefore, they said you have to do a majority. You know how it is with exactly. To measure things exactly. How do you have to measure exactly? to use a laser or something.
So when a Kohen, even though we normally aren't talking about Kohanim in the Bais Hamikdash, but if a Kohen in the Bais Hamikdash is sacrificing the birds with doves, and this situation happens, he's not metame by the bird, but after shechita, nobody can eat it?
So there's going to be something specifically about kachim. Wait for the next page. There's going to be something specifically about kachim. It would be by an animal, because a bird wouldn't give off the tumah unless someone swallowed it. But an animal, yeah. Okay, the next attempted proof. Amar of Katina Tashema Cholkul Shnayim Behin Shavin Shneim Tmeim. This is talking about a clay oven. A clay oven. Now the rule is that a vessel that becomes tummy, you put it into the mikveh and it becomes pure. When it comes to an oven, you can't put it into the mikveh; it needs to be broken. Now, if you broke it in a way that the majority remains intact, then it's not considered broken. So let's say you broke it in half and you have exactly two halves. So it says that they're both tummy. You know, by these yeshiva bachim would always fight. They would come to the house, they would say, who got the bigger piece? They would fight who got the bigger piece of cake. So finally the balabas figured out a way to do it. He says, one of you is going to cut it, and the other one is going to choose which one he wants. So that's why it's exactly. So here, they cut it exactly, and it's exactly 50-50.
And we got
So it says that they're both tummy. Why? Can't be that it's really 50-50. There must be one of them is the majority. And then therefore we don't know. So we're machmer on both. We say they're both tummy. One of them is a little more, but we don't know. Okay. The Gemara is medayik. Let's say we could actually tell which one was more. We would measure it, and so tahirin, then it would be good. Amai tahirin, why is it good? Zil hacha ikaruba, zil hacha ikaruba. If we say that 50% is considered majority, so you look at this one, 50%, you have the majority. You look at that one, you have 50%, you have the majority. The Gemara says, Amar of Papa, Trei Rubi, Bechadman Aleka. You can't have two majorities, right? Now, so what's going on by Shlita? When you cut half, there's majority shechter, there's majority not shechter. You can't have two majorities either. So, Rashi explains this, that when it comes to Shechita, I only have one halacha here regarding the majority, and that is the Shechita needs to be the majority. I don't have a halacha, what's left should not be the majority, according to this opinion. So, when I have 50%, the Halach L'Moshe Sinai tells me that 50% is the majority. So I don't have a contradicting majority of something that wasn't shechter. Whereas when I'm looking at the halacha, I only have one halacha that I'm looking at. I'm not looking at not shechter. I'm only looking at the halacha of shechter. And I have 50%, so I have the majority. I don't have a contradicting majority. That's the way they're viewing it. Tashema.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
I don't want to go off the topic, but I was taught that shechita is the most humane way of killing an animal, because part of the process is that you're cutting the jugular vein, which cuts off the blood supply to the brain, so that the animal doesn't feel it right away. It doesn't,
right.
Like the sensation of the pain is right away. So before we're saying that it's not necessarily part of the shechita, the cutting the blood vessels. It's only to drain the blood. But is that idea of not causing pain to the animal at the time of shechita
right.
part of the thing, or is it not?
Right.
I don't know if you don't have the answer, or it comes later. I just want to ask.
The answer that I believe is that all of the beauty of the Torah is together with all of the derabbanans and with the minhagim and all of that. If we modify a bit, even by dropping minhagim and derabbanans in this, we end up with some other religion. So yes, the shechita is the most humane, but if you're just going to take the original laws without the rabbanan and all of that, then you're ending up with something else. So That's my
Just-
thoughts on that.
Just the blood supply to the brain is the carotids. The jugulars are the blood supply away from the brain.
I was going to say something. Thank you for saying it, because I was like, I say it or not?
Common mistake.
Maybe that's what I meant.
That is what you meant to say.
That is what.
Noise.
The sleeper hole.
So majority is usually 51% of something more than 50.
Yeah.
Here, the majority becomes
think.
50.
Yeah,
So we don't run presidential elections on this kind of
Right.
majority.
right. Maybe in Florida. Tashima.
Right. Only in Florida.
Tashima, come and listen. Shachar Chatzi Gargeres. Shechs half the pipe, the windpipe. V'shaba Kedei Shchita. And he pauses.
Wow.
He waits the amount of time for shchita, which means to kedei shchita acheres, to shecht another animal. We're on top of page 29. Hey, v'gomer shchita. So and then he concludes the shchita, so it's kshera, it's valid. V'iyam mit mechtzal mechza karoiv. If we say that half and half is the majority, it's a itrufala, it's a treifa. He paused by cutting the majority. You see, the rule is that half the trachea could be severed up to half, and it's still not considered a treifa. It could survive if it's cut up to half. So here he cut it halfway, and then he paused. Now we're assuming right now that we're dealing with an animal, so therefore it's by an animal. He cut half. You need to cut two pipes, the majority of the trachea and the esophagus. He only cut the trachea halfway. Now, if cutting it halfway is considered the majority, so now it's a treifa. How is he allowed to pause and finish cutting the other pipe, this pipe and the other pipe? The Gemara explains, Mi savris bebehema. Do you think that this is talking about an animal? Loi, it's ba'if, it's referring to a bird. And now, mi manavshach. Whichever way you look at it, you have it, it's going to be valid. If you say that half and half is the majority, so you had a good shechita before you even paused. And if half and half is not the majority, then you didn't do anything. You didn't do any shechita, it's not a treifa either. Okay, so we've resolved that. That was the gargeres.
So why does he have to continue to speak if you don't interrupt?
Yeah, it's a good question. Possibly we'll see on the next page. Possibly. You'll see. Okay, Tashima. Harisha yachatzi kanapagum. Let's say the trachea has a defect and it's severed halfway. V'hisif alav kolshu v'gamri. And he continued that defect by shechting it. A drop more. Shchitasik kshera. So it's valid. V'yamrit mechza mechza karoiv treifa havin. If you say that half and half is the majority, it was a treifa before he even started, because it was 50% severed. Amarava shani linyan treifa debin and raven near leinaim. No. Rava says that when it comes to treifas, we don't say that half 50% is considered majority. By a treifa, you need to have roiv hanir leinayim. Even 51% is not considered. That I'm going to need to measure with a utensil. I need roiv hanir leinayim. It has to be visibly majority. The Mechaber writes that if you do have to measure, and you measure it with a utensil, some sort of measuring, and it's even like a chut asayra, like a hair's breadth over the line, it's valid. However, the Taz argues on the Mechaber. He says you need Reiv Hanir Leinayim. So he says if there's no Hefsid Meruba, then you should be strict and make sure that everything that you do is visibly acceptable, not just that that you're going to measure it. And there's other poskim that are machmer even with a hefsid meruba that like this, what Rav is saying, shani lin treifet bin reiva nir leinaim, or other types of things that we'll see. Amalei Abaya says to Rava, v'lei kol dechein hu, is it not a kal v'chaymer? Kol dechein is kol shekein. Ma treifa, when it comes to a treifa, de b'mashu mitarfa. That normally a treifa, not normally, but in several cases, the smallest puncture makes something a treifa. For example, in the esophagus, a little hole makes a treifa. In the lungs, a little hole makes it a treifa. Or in the intestines, a little hole makes it a treifa. But heicha debina and ruba, but when you need the majority to make it a treifa, for example, over here in the windpipe, in the trachea, or in the spine also, needs to be cut by the majority. Bin in reiva nir leinayim, and it needs to be what type of majority? The majority that's visible. So shchita, when it comes to shchita, the adik ruba leimaskasha, it's never valid without roiv. Like kolshkin to bin in reiva nir leinayim, you should always need a visible roiv. Why are we saying that there's going to be some sort of leniency by treifa, by shchita, that exactly 50% is good, when by a treifa, we don't say that exactly 50% is going to make it a treifa. It needs to be a visible treifa. By the shchita, to make it kosher, for sure we should say that it needs to be visibly the majority. The Gemara switches because of this. It switches our pshat. Ela dekuli alma mechza mechzeina karayv. Everyone agrees that 50% is not the majority. V'chiyat mar the Rav Kana linin Pesach itmar was actually taught about something else. So we have a statement of Rav and Rav Kana, but we applied it to the wrong case. Linin Pesach itmar. Haresha Yisrael mechzet tzar mechzet tmeim. We have a rule that Tuma is the chiyah b'tzibur. That if the majority of the people are tamei, and it comes time to bring the korban Pesach, so they don't get postponed to Pesach Sheni. They're able to bring the korban Pesach even in the first Pesach, because majority are impure. So Rav Amar Mechza Mechza Karev. Rav says you don't need the majority, you need 50%. That's already the majority. Rav Kana Amar Mechza Mechza Karev. Rav Kana says no. If it's 50%, those 50% will do it by the Pesach Sheni. It's not the majority. My time at the Rav. What's the reason for Rav over there that says that you need that 50% is already enough? Because it was written ish. It says, you have the pasuk quoted over there. Let me look at it again. It says, speak to the Jewish people, a man, which means any man that will be impure or will be distant for all generations, and will make a Pesach. No. So it says that he'll do it for the Pesach Sheni. But what does it say over there? Who goes to the Pesach Sheni? A man, any man. Ki tamei lenefesh. If he's impure, ish nitchavein tzibur nidachim. Only a man gets postponed, gets pushed off to the second Pesach, a month later. But the community doesn't. And so therefore, once you have 50%, according to Rav, you already have the community. Is that how we take votes in Shul? On the board?
Amen.
What was the joke? The rabbi was ill, and he gets a letter from the community. They said, we took a vote if we should wish you a refuah shlema. It was like 6 to 3, and we decided we're going to wish you a refuah shlema. Okay. Roi v'echad ba'ayf. The majority of one by a bird. This is a little bit of a problem. We mentioned this when we studied the Mishnah. The Mishnah started off with, you have to shecht 1 by a bird, 2 by an animal. Then it says the majority of 1 is enough. Rabbi Yehuda says you have to shecht the breathing. Half of 1 by the bird, 1.5 by an animal is puzzled. The majority of 1 by a bird and the majority of 2 by an animal is valid. So that second majority of 1 by a bird, majority of 2 by an animal, was already said the first time. We started off at the beginning saying you have to shecht 1 by a bird, 2 by the animal, and the majority is good enough. Then at the end we say the majority of 1 by a bird, Majority of 2 by an animal. So that was already said, because you said at the beginning, majority of 1 is enough. So why does it have to repeat it? The Gemara now asks, Tanina Chada Zimna. That's a problem. You taught this in the Mishnah one time, Rubai Shalachat Kamayu, that the majority of 1 is enough. Okay, so the simon here is Hey Chaf Shin, Pei Shin, and Ches. It's very obvious what the Hey Chaf Shin, Pei Shin is. I'm not sure what the Ches stands for. I don't know if your commentary says. The last letter of the Manik would seem to be incorrect. Okay, excellent. The Tikei say from a mitzvah. Okay. Amar Rav Aishia. It could have been that they turned it into a word, or Hachash Pashach. Maybe it sounded more like a word, so that's why they threw it in there. Or maybe it was something that they were familiar with.
Here's a note. It says on the Siman, it says this Siman does not appear in the early manuscripts of the Gemara. It was apparently added later by the printers. The last letter, Ches, does not represent any of the Amarayim who express an opinion in the discussion. Perhaps it was originally a Shin representing Reb Shimon Beis Lakish.
Very good. Very good. Very good. You see,
You can scoot over one.
he's more daring to correct. They're very traditional. Like we don't know what it is. He's ready to offer a alternative, which is cute. Okay, Amar Rav Aishia, that's the hay. Rav Aishia says our problem was that it says twice the same halacha, that the majority of one of the pipes, cutting one of the pipes, the majority is good enough. It says that twice. So why does it have to say it twice? Rav Aishia says chada b'chulim v'chada b'kachim. One is referring to a regular animal, and one was referring to kachim. You brought this up, not this time. Utzricha, and it's necessary. Diyashmin and chulin, and that means it's necessary to say it by both, because we could have thought maybe it's the halacha by one wouldn't apply to the other. If it only said diyashmin and chulin, if it only taught us by chulin, hasamud desagile beruba. Over there it would have been valid enough with just majority. Mishum delavl damutzarch, because you don't need to get the blood out. Aval kadshim deladamutzarch, but by kadshim when you need to get the blood out, emalei tesagile beruba. Maybe majority isn't enough. Adikakula, you have to sever the entire head. You have to cut everything. V'yashmin and kadshim, and if it would say it by kadshim, mishum deladamutzarch, because why is majority good? Because you need the blood. Aval chulin deladam leitzarch, eme bepalga tesagile. I would have thought that maybe even half is enough. So Kamash Malan has to tell us that both of them you need the majority. The Gemara now asks,